Hello all, welcome back to New Chapters. My name is Sarah, and if this is your first time joining me, I just want to say thank you for stopping by for this chapter of my life. I'm a hobby hopper, so if this isn't the content you usually watch me for, I hope you enjoyed this hobby as well and will stick around for today's video. In today's video, we're going to be doing another WIP&Chat. WIP, W-I-P, just stands for work in progress. I'm still working on my Enablers Outpost Winter Girl kit. I have made it to my last 4x4 section over here on my top row. So I am making progress slowly but surely. So I hope you guys will stick around for today's video and we can kind of catch up on life and you can see me do a little bit of diamond painting. So as per usual, before we get going, I'm just going to kind of tell you about my supplies for today. I have my Elizabeth Ward tray still kitted up for this particular kit. I am still using my broken Diamond Art Club diamond painting pin here. I have a mini glue dot, and you can probably see it there at the very tip of my pin. And then I'm using the Diamond Art Club stainless steel single placer. I also still have my pair of, let's see here, make sure the right side up, my Dreamer Designs tweezers here, just in case I need some tweezers. And then I have my Firefly Diamond Art tray that has the interchangeable bases. I am going to be using the single placing grid again, since I'm using the diamond painting pen again. So this is what that tray bottom looks like. I can get a good angle. There you go. So obviously I'm also using a different angle to film today. So hopefully this works out a little bit better so you guys can actually see what I'm doing if you're watching the video and not just treating this like a podcast and listening to it. But hopefully this gets you close enough that you can see what I'm doing and not have to worry about my hand getting in the way either. So we'll go ahead. And even though this is my last 4x4 section, I'm not going to do quite that much right now, but it is getting close to the end. Let's see here if I can get this down straight enough to start working on a tiny section over here. While I'm doing this, how are you guys doing? What's been going on with you guys this week? Anything to catch me up on? Any updates from anything that you've posted about before? Anything you want to talk to me about, leave it in the comments below. As per usual, I'm happy to help offer some emotional support if that's something that is needed. So tell me about what's going on in your life down below, and I am happy to be there for you, whether it's emotional support for the positive or the negative. All right, let me pick my first color out here. Got a lot of the darker colors in this last section over on the edges. Most of this has been pretty light colors, but looks like we're getting into a little bit more of these dark blues now. So, to update you guys on kind of my life and where things are at, I, as you have probably know if you've been watching any of my WIP&Chats, have been applying to jobs and been trying to find a new job. I kind of quit my last job a little bit impulsively because I just needed to get out of that job, needed to get out of that environment, needed to take some time for myself to kind of recover from some burnout that I hadn't dealt with. So I've been applying to jobs for, I've been applying to jobs for, gosh, probably the last 9 months or so, roughly. But I've been unemployed for the last 3 months. So I really have been needing a job because I don't have any sort of income that I'm bringing in myself right now. Luckily, I have a partner who is able to kind of help offset a little bit of finances if I need him to, but that's not kind of the long-term plan, ideally. Oh no, I lost my glue dot. Ideally, we both want to be bringing in income at any given time. But I have an exciting update on that front. I had talked last week about getting an interview for a psychiatric facility that deals with kids, and I had an interview scheduled with them for this week. let me see. Can't find any great dots here. Okay. I had an interview scheduled with them for this week, and during the interview on Monday, they actually went ahead and in the interview offered me a position. It is a full-time position. They do 10-hour shifts on the schedule that I am most interested in. Um, so it would only be a 4-day work week if I do the full um, 40 hours. But they even have an option to just do 30 hours a week and still be considered full time and be benefits eligible and things like that. So I think for right now, I'm going to start off with just that 30 hours a week. Um, it makes the financial side of it a little tighter to swing, but I think kind of again, after dealing with some mental health struggles recently and, having, man, these glue dots were supposed to be my solution to my sticky problem. And today they are just as problematic. It's warmer today here than it's been so far all year, so perhaps that's part of the problem. I've got the windows open and stuff, but it's probably a good 70, 75 in my unit right now. So maybe it's just a little too tacky outside for these glue dots to cooperate with me. Um, but yes, so they offer um, 30 hours as full time with benefits. So for right now, I'm going to start off there. The position is very hands on and does require some like physical engagement occasionally with the kids if if there's problems with them trying to harm themselves or others while they're in the facility. So sometimes for safety reasons you are required to intervene and kind of perform like safety restraints and things like that. So the position recognizes that it's a little bit difficult sometimes and can be tricky kind of mentally to deal with like the ups and downs that kind of happen on a daily basis. So they offer again the 30-hour like minimum for benefits for full time. So they kind of recommend that if you haven't done work like this before, and I haven't done anything that's exactly like this before, so they recommend that you start off with 30 hours just to see how things are going and how you like it before you commit to the full 40 hours. Um, because at any time you can move up to 40 hours, but uh, from my understanding from the interview process, once you commit to those 40 hours, it's really hard to go back down to 30 hours if you decide you really would like to go back. So for right now, I've accepted doing 30 hours a week, which means I'll only be working 3 days a week, which will be awesome for like YouTube purposes. Hopefully that means I can balance YouTube and a full-time job pretty seamlessly and still have time to like take a day if I need it for myself or take a day to recover from, working 3 10s back to back or, if I'm not feeling well or whatever, it kind of gives me wiggle room. And then it just gives me a day to be able to chill out and like get stuff done around the house if I need to or run errands or things like that. So I am definitely looking forward to it. And I'm hoping that it ends up being a good fit for me long term. Because at least on the outset, they talked about valuing mental health for employees and like recognizing like they have a really great PTO system, which maybe compared to some other places is not great still, but compared to most like jobs in the US, it's more time off than most full-time employers have ever offered me, even when I was working in government jobs. So I think it's really nice that they recognize that like if you are not getting the downtime you need between shifts to kind of recover, it's just you're not going to be a good employee, you're not going to be putting your best foot forward at least. And so they try to advocate for actually taking time off and rewarding you for coming to work by giving you time to then recuperate and recover on your own. So there's a couple of things that I see as potential downsides and negatives to it, but there's so many positives that it's worth at least giving it a shot and seeing how it goes. I don't know if I'll necessarily be cut out for it long term, but I won't really know until I'm in that environment and kind of having to do what I've got to do to keep everyone safe, to know if that's something that I can handle or if that's just something that I'm unable to deal with either ethically or physically or whatever that case might be. Um, but I am looking forward to having a job finally and getting some income and having a schedule that honestly seems pretty ideal for what I'm looking for right now. It is an evening schedule, which is what I was wanting, um, in addition to it being these 10-hour shifts. So, like, it really, I don't know, it's ticking off a lot of boxes for me. So I'm hopeful that it works out long term, and that the day to day, while it might be kind of mentally and physically draining some days, from my understanding of it, it's very much kind of like, the teacher mindset where it's like you might not see the growth and the progress every single day, but there is growth and progress that you can see in the kids that you're working with. So it might not be necessarily a thanked job every single day, but there are those rewards that you can see in the progress and the changes of behavior and attitudes and things like that that can kind of provide that really fulfilling feeling that I think I look for in a lot of the jobs that I have had in the past. That's kind of, I mean, that's the thing that makes it hard to leave the jobs is the clientele I've dealt with. Even if I've loved my coworkers and loved my position, like, or at least the day-to-day operations of my positions in the past, it's really truly been the clients that I'm like saddest to leave behind, whether that's adults or kids. um, so I guess in that regard, I'm kind of looking forward to hopefully having another position that is just as fulfilling in terms of being able to build kind of those special professional connections with clientele that are, trying to make big life changes that can be complicated, and being able to be a part of that process for somebody is so rewarding for me. Um, and speaking of that job, and like old coworkers and things like that, so that's part of my plan. Then this week is, I mentioned in my last open chat that this position is probably about, I don't know, 45, 50 minutes away from where I live, on a good day. And so the drive is a little bit longer. So I want to make sure that I get a chance to take my car in and just make sure, everything's good, get my oil changed, all that kind of stuff. Excuse me, before I start my position. So even though there's some car shops that are definitely closer to me where I'm at now than where I'm going to go, I scheduled a oil change for my car a couple of towns over where my mom works and where I used to work to get my oil changed, and kind of am using it as an excuse to. The shop's close enough that I can walk to my old office and to the place that my mom works now. So I'm going to go meet up with her this week for lunch during my oil change. And then I'm going to stop by my old office and drop in. I made sure at least one coworker that I want to see is going to be there, but I'm going to surprise the rest of them and just show up and waste a little bit of their workday. Kind of catching up and seeing them again. It's been, gosh, a year and a half. Yeah, about a year and a half since I've seen any of them. So it'll be really nice to catch up with some of my old coworkers, and kind of makes a one-stop shop to just be able to go see everybody at one time while they're at work, rather than trying to meet up with everybody individually. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be really nice. There's a couple of older co-workers that I know are getting close to retirement age, so I figure it's a good excuse to make sure that I get a chance to see them before they, get close enough to actually retire. I have hopes that maybe I'll get invited to retirement parties and things, but it's hard to go back and find, somebody who you worked with for a year or two 5 years ago, and like track them down and try to get information to them about retirement parties and stuff. So I'm not sure that I'll get notified of their retirement parties when they come up. So this way I make sure I can say hi to them at least one last time before I potentially have no means of contacting them again. They're one of them I'm friends with on Facebook. The other one who was my partner while I was there, he is very anti-Facebook. So without having his email address, his work email address anymore, I won't be able to contact him because every time I try to, ever so subtly be like, hey, you should text me your phone number so I can wish you a happy birthday next year. I don't have your phone number yet. He ignores my subtle hints that I'm asking for his phone number so that I can keep in touch with him after he's no longer employed at our old job. So I have no way of contacting him once he leaves the office. So got to make sure I at least stop in and say hi. As I said, he's, probably a year. I think at this point he's about a year away from retirement. So good excuse to be able to stop in and make sure I, again, say hi to him one last time uh, before I can't get a hold of him anymore. We spent at least one day a week, every other week, I guess it would have been, just driving around, meeting up with our clients and stuff in our community. So we definitely got really close. Whether he wanted to be or not, I'm not sure, but he was someone that I really enjoyed spending time with and was kind of forced to have to enjoy spending time with to some extent. So looking forward to seeing him and really all of my other coworkers. I have another coworker who I know was diagnosed with some medical issues since I left, so I'm looking forward to catching up with him as well, and kind of checking in with him and seeing how he's doing. He always gave me a hard time about, making sure I stopped by and saw him if I was ever in town, and I always told him he could stop by and see me when he was in my town, but last time we kind of caught up, he said, yeah, I would come see you, but, I'm dealing with some medical stuff, so kind of updated me on that and was like, oh, I need to make sure that I, again, make a trip out to see him since he's dealing with quite a bit of stuff himself. And I want to make sure I can kind of offer support and, keep in touch with him um, while he's going through some rough times. But again, I'm just looking forward to seeing them, as well as a couple of other coworkers that I was pretty close with while I was there. I am definitely an introvert, so I'm really good at keeping up with people, like, while I'm working with them. But then as soon as I leave a job, even if it's somebody that I really like and I really would like to spend some time with them or get together with them and like make plans with them outside of work once I've left, I'm really bad about actually following up with people in that capacity and like actually making time to meet up with somebody. So again, I'm making the effort while it makes sense to, since I had some car work I needed to get done anyway. It just made sense to take it to a shop nearby the old office, and even though it's about, I don't know, like a 45-minute drive for me to get back there now from where I'm living at this point, it just made sense to me to go ahead and swing by, make a detour trip that's not as convenient so I can say hi to everybody. All right. So I got updates then on coworkers that I'm seeing and lunch with my mom this week. And then the other thing that's been going on this week is I've been avoiding doing our taxes because I shouldn't say our taxes. My partner does his, I do my own. But I've been avoiding doing my taxes because I I like to like print out my tax information once I'm done with them. And even though we moved into our current place months ago, I've been avoiding setting up the printer because I haven't really needed to set it up for anything. Um, Anything I've needed to print out, I've just asked my partner if he'll print it out for me while he's at work. Um, and it's just, like insurance paperwork or stuff like that we've needed to update since we moved in. And so he, ooh, almost just spilled all of my drills. That would have been awesome. um, so he had done his taxes. I still needed to do mine. And I finally was like, okay, I will pull out the dang printer and I will get it set up. Well, the printer and I have had fights since I got the printer. It has never liked me very much. It is one of those smart printers that connects to things over Wi-Fi and, in theory should be really easy to work with. And since the day that I have started using that printer, we fight all the time. Like if I want to print something, it's always a challenge. It's always like oh, you have to completely reset everything and reconnect it to the internet. And it has been a pain in the butt. And then the other problem is I don't use it often enough to like make sure that everything's in good working order on a regular basis. So like the ink and stuff will dry up. So then the next time I go to use the printer, even though the cartridge is, over half full, it's like you don't have any ink that's actually coming out of your ink cartridges anymore. And like I try to like flush the ink like plates, and I will even like take them out and kind of with like a dry cloth wipe the excess ink that might have dried on the outside off of the ink cartridges, and it still never really did much. So that printer and I had been having a long, hard fight, and after, gosh, I don't even know, way too many years of having it and fighting with it, because it wasn't worth buying a new one for the twice a year I try to print stuff. But I like having one on hand because it's way more convenient to have one at home than have to like go to the library. Or, I mean, obviously when I had a job, I could print stuff out at work if I really needed to, but still, it's easier to just print things off at home if I can. So after years of struggling and battling it out, we finally had met our end. I went to print, and the first page that printed out was like, first off, the printer sounded horrible. It was making this really loud, like grinding noise. And the page that it printed out was basically just a streak of black ink down the whole front of it. So I was like, oh, great. So I am like trying to troubleshoot some things with the printer, and I turned it on its side so I could access one of the panels to like make sure there was nothing stuck in it. And I heard something fall, like something rolled through the printer. So I'm sure there was a piece that detached that I could not figure out what it was or figure out how to get to it to like see what it was that even rolled or was rolling around. And when I went to try to print my next page, the rollers that like grab the paper and push it through would not grab the paper and push it through anymore. So that printer finally bit the dust. But unfortunately, the best rated printer was the same printer, just in a slightly, newer model version. So I was like, fine, I will give this, like maybe it was really just that printer and not the brand or the model or anything. It was just that printer. So we ended up getting rid of the printer we had. We dropped it off at like a Best Buy for their like e-waste program. So we disposed of it properly, and then we bought a newer version of the printer we had. And I will say, it's staring at me now, so I want to make sure it knows it's much better than the last one. It has not been fighting me nearly as hard. Now, granted, I feel like I understand the printer more now because I've been through rough times of researching with the old printer, so I kind of understand how it works better than I think I ever understood the old printer at this point. But the new printer also was having some difficulties. When I went to finally do my taxes, I did them and it printed out the first like 3 pages of my report totally fine. And then there was an error where my iPad went to sleep. So it like stopped printing because it lost connection or whatever to the printer. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I pulled it back up, and then it was like, then the tax website, I had moved forward on it, so then it wouldn't let me actually view the document anymore that I had created before I saved everything and like finalized it. So then it was a problem on the tax website side. Well, then once I finally figured that out and got to the point where I could, print more paperwork, well, then the printer no longer was connected to the internet for some reason. So after, spending 30 minutes typing all my basic stuff in for taxes, I then spent another hour just simply trying to finalize everything because I was trying to print things and trying to get the printer to reconnect to the internet that I had just connected it to, I don't know, 3 days beforehand, if that. So Still kind of fighting with my printer, but definitely not fighting with this one nearly as much as the last one was fighting with me. So that is good. Excuse me again. All right, I am running out of storage space on my phone, so I'm going to take a quick break and I will be right back. Thanks, guys. All right, so I think that was probably it for kind of life updates. Um, in terms of like diamond painting related things, um, I kind of wanted your guys' opinion on the thought of maybe starting a second WIP. So starting a second project, so I'd have two projects going at least. I've been thinking about doing this. For a while I was planning to do um, storage for leftover drills in more Elizabeth Ward trays, but I realized pretty quickly, pretty early on, that like that was going to be way too expensive. Um, to keep all of the drills, especially if you include or start adding in like specialty drills and stuff like that. Um, so when I first started diamond painting, though, I had bought one of the like 45-piece Elizabeth Ward trays, and then I bought like two or three of the smaller trays that just have the um, tiny size like containers. I've learned that's what they're actually called. The sizing is tiny, small, medium, and large. I'm sure I will forget that at some point, and we'll stop calling them by their correct proper names. But um, I have the like big set of just the tiny ones. I have a couple of those, but those aren't really great for diamond paintings. For like while you're working on them, like it's great to have a lot of the small trays or the small containers as well. But I find that I need sometimes the big containers too, especially now that I'm working on like a larger painting than I've worked on in the past. So if I'm going to do a like second WIP, I wanted to have some trays that were a little bit bigger, or had some of the bigger size containers, I guess I should say, in them. So I did go ahead and buy another 2-pack off of Amazon of the 45-piece tray. So my thought is to, as I said, start another WIP. I know I'm not, making a lot of progress necessarily on this project, at least not very quickly. And that's okay, but I do think that like having more than one going might kind of motivate me to work on both of them. Feel a little less, maybe not that I'm feeling burnt out, but like I would imagine that if I'm just working on this one large piece for months on end, I might get a little burnt out of just having the one piece to work on. So I'm thinking about starting a second WIP. Obviously, if I do that, I will post like another kit up video of some kind, and would potentially be working on that WIP as well on videos in the future. Um, so there'd be some content related to that as well in the future. But I guess I'm kind of wanting to know from you guys, like, do you guys work only on one project at a time? Do you guys work on multiple projects at a time? Would you want to see both projects if I'm working on two at the same time? Um, and also like what some like advice you have possibly about, whether you prefer or maybe even don't prefer to have multiple projects going at the same time. Like I'm going to be using Elizabeth Ward for both if I do this, but I'll have them I'll have them separated so I know which drills go with which canvas. I'm sort of playing around with the idea of, man, sorry guys, I feel like my ums and my uhs have just increased twofold in the second half of this video now. But I am planning to probably, this is a round kit, so I'll probably like start a square kit is my thought, and have maybe like a round and a square kit going at all times. But as I said, if you guys have any advice or thoughts or, ideas about what you'd like to see if I'm working on multiple projects, or if you think it's a bad idea to work on multiple projects at one time, or what your thoughts are, if you'll let me know about that in the comments below. Or again, if you have tips and tricks for like how best to go about working on more than one project at the same time, that would be awesome. But aside from that, the only other kind of diamond painting related, sort of channel related generally thing I wanted to talk to you guys about today was the fact that I am still planning to continue doing weekly WIPs. So I think that's going to be kind of like a staple of my channel, at least for the time being. I imagine potentially, as you know, as I'm hobby hopping through the world, there might be a point at which diamond painting is not as enjoyable, that I kind of take a break from it. But as of right now, I am really enjoying diamond painting, and I'm actually really enjoying our WIP&Chats. Perhaps that's because, you know, as I said, I haven't been going to work for a couple of months now, and as an introvert, I tend to stay home and not talk to anybody whenever I can, but we all need that social interaction, so maybe this is my way of having that social interaction. So maybe once I start working, I'll be like, oh man, I gotta spend more time talking. As where right now, I'm like, oh man, I get to talk for a little while. Like, I don't have anybody but my partner to talk to all week. I am so looking forward to updating everyone with my life happenings and seeing where they're at with their life happenings. Maybe, perhaps, that'll decline a little once I'm working, but I'm really enjoying right now sitting down and talking to you guys. I'm looking forward to it every week already, so I hope you guys like this too, because I'm hoping to continue, as I said, make this kind of a staple of my channel to do some diamond painting and chat with you guys for 30 minutes to an hour about what's going on in our lives. And in addition to that, though, even though I'm going to be taking on some more time commitments with having a full time job in addition to this, I would like to add in maybe a second consistent video posting every week. So I'm thinking right now about adding something. Sometimes it will still be diamond painting related stuff. Like if I end up doing a second kit for a whip, like when I do my kit up and stuff like that, or when I finish a kit, I'll be posting like post reviews of stuff and showing unboxing still and hauls and stash videos and all of that stuff as it becomes pertinent and like I have things to show. But I'm also planning to start adding in some additional like hobby content. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of my channel. What I'm hoping to do is just build a space where people who like any sort of hobby that I am working on can come and hang out, and they don't necessarily have to be just there for the diamond painting or just there for reading content or just there for baking content or nail art or paper crafting or budgeting or any of those things that I've kind of dabbled in terms of hobbies or have made into a hobby in terms of budgeting. um, but I guess I want to know what sorts of videos you guys are most interested in, kind of in those hobby categories. Like, are you interested in, baking videos or paper craft or like a reading journal? What sort of things, craft and hobby wise, in addition to diamond painting, do you guys like and would you be interested in watching and finding out some stuff about, even if it's something that you don't necessarily do now but are interested in learning about? Um, Things that are kind of on my mind or top of mind for it is I'd like to do a reading journal kind of recap. I know we're, almost to March now. It'll be March by the time that this video posts. So I know that, you guys, not necessarily you guys, but I know that it's been, we're not at the beginning of the year anymore, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So a recap of like a 2023 reading journal is a little late in the year to be posting, but I did finally kind of wrap up with my reading journal and fill in all the rest of the spreads that were like database for the year and kind of some stats more or less of my reading from last year. So that's something that I'd really like to share with you guys, is like my reading journal update. And then another thing that's kind of been calling to me recently is like some card making stuff. I've been watching some more card making videos again on YouTube, so it's kind of been inspiring me to want to make some birthday cards for like my friends and family for this year. And I'm thinking about just kind of sitting down for a weekend or whatever and kind of mass producing cards for the year. But is that something you guys would be interested in seeing? Or some like making of cards and, trying out some different sorts of crafts and some different supplies that I have that I've never used before, to make some birthday cards, things like that. Or if there's anything else, as I said, that you guys would be interested in besides what I've talked about, please let me know about that down in the comments below. It might be biting off a little bit more than I can chew right now, again, with just now agreeing to a full-time position, but then also wanting to keep working on expanding stuff on YouTube. Might be a little much, but I mean, again, these are things that are just when I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I really don't want to do much of anything. But these are the sorts of things that are coming to mind that I'm like, you know what, that actually sounds fun and enjoyable. Like, I want to take that stuff and be able to put it into my channel without worrying too much about, like, is this what my viewers want to see? Or, is this going to turn some people away because they're just here for the diamond painting content? Like, I understand that. Like, there's certain YouTubers I watch, obviously, because of the specific niche that they're a part of. But I don't want to have to limit myself to just diamond painting things if that's not what's either entirely or sometimes maybe eventually at all sparking interest for me, in terms of things that I want to film and share. So I hope that's something that you guys are okay with, and kind of a mission statement, so to speak, for this channel that you guys are willing to support, because I'd love to have you guys around for any and all, again, chapters of my life, no matter what hobby they're kind of related to. But I think that was really all I had for today for our WIP&Chat, kind of updates on job, and again, kind of updates on where I'm hoping the channel goes, and if you guys are able and willing to put some input in for me about what you'd like to see, or kind of tell me about what hobbies you guys like yourselves down below in the comments. That would be awesome. Again, I don't necessarily want to tailor the channel to the YouTube algorithm per se, but I also want to show you guys things that you're interested in. I'm just hoping that those things can extend beyond diamond painting, and that we can find a community here that, values having multiple hobbies, being a hobby hopper, being someone who isn't just, dedicated to one single craft all of the time. But I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. It might take some time to build up that community, but that's ideally what I'm hoping to build here. So last week, if you watched my WIP&Chat, I started asking you guys to leave like an emoji kind of related to the video in the comments below. If you've made it to the end of the video and you're still watching, just to kind of show that you're still watching and that you are here till the end. I would really love if you guys would leave an emoji. For this week, I think I want to do something related to my printer problems. So leave an emoji of, I don't know if there's a printer or a fax machine or something in the emojis, or some sort of like office or school supplies like paper clips or a binder or a notebook. I know there's some different emojis kind of along that vein of thought. So again, if you guys have made it this far in the video, I'd love if you'd leave me comments about what you'd like to see in the future, but also a comment with an emoji that is related to printers or office or school supplies. But with that being said, I just want to say thank you all for watching today's video. If you're looking for more content related to this chapter of my life, please check out my diamond painting playlist. I'll have it linked in the video, and it'll also be below the description box, so you should be able to find it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content about this chapter and others. And please leave any comments or questions that you have down below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.